Hi there, this is David and welcome to my listing of 15 short but enjoyable traditional RPGs for working adults. When I was a kid, I had all the time in the world to sink into massive epics, and while I still do play those games on occasion, now I'm a busy guy with a family, and it's nice to be able to knock a game out in one weekend. Keep in mind though, this is not just going to be me listing off some random short RPGs. Everything in here has been vetted by me. I have played, enjoyed, and completed all of them in less than 20 hours. Also, I'm not going to be ranking them here, so instead, I'm just going to be listing them in alphabetical order. So, let's go ahead and get started. Number 1, Atelier Iris 2, released for the PlayStation 2. Normally, I'm not a fan of these crafting RPGs, especially since it really does waste a bunch of time when you have to sit around a pot and craft for hours. But this one is different. It's a short, tight journey that's split up into two separate games, one where you follow Felt on his adventures throughout the world, and another more intimate vignette where you stay inside town and watch Weiss grow as an alchemist. This is one of the longer games on the list, but it is worth your time. Number 2, Breath of Fire, Dragon Quarter, released for the PlayStation 2. Here's a pretty divisive title, but I went into it with an open mind and I actually enjoyed it for what it was, not what I wished it to be. During my time with it, I only had to restart once, and I think that was right after the first boss. After that, I was fine, and I never had to use the dragon powers either, so the time limit thing was a non-issue to me. The combat is tactical and fun, and the storyline is pretty unique, so if you want to see what all the fuss is about, you can easily beat this one in about 15 hours. Number 3, Chrono Trigger, released for the SNES, PS1, DS, and PC. Here's a game that needs no introduction and is widely hailed as the best RPG ever made. A single playthrough will probably take you about 15 hours, and then subsequent runs on New Game Plus, maybe 5? The storyline leaves you on the edge of your seat, and the battle system has been copied but never replicated. It's an absolute gem and one of my favorites as well, and with it being this short, you have no excuse to not play it and see what everybody has been raving about for the past 25 years. Number 4, Dragon Quest II, released for the NES, SNES, Game Boy Color, and PC. While this one is much derided, and I would not recommend playing the NES version, all the other remakes have been streamlined to make this a much more user-friendly experience. While the first game is short too, this one really gives you a taste of what the series is all about. So, if you're looking for a quick game to just get a taste of Dragon Quest-y goodness, look no further. I give high praise for this open-world, challenging entry into the longest-running JRPG series of all time. Number 5, Final Fantasy, released for the NES, PlayStation 1, Game Boy Advance, PSP, and PC. Similarly to Dragon Quest II, I would also recommend playing one of the many remakes because the NES version can be quite punishing, and the original could actually take you more than 20 hours to beat, while the other versions have been modernized to make them much more user-friendly. If you've been putting off getting into the series because you're afraid that it will try to take over your life, try out the inaugural entry one day. Also, because of the class system, you can play it over and over again, while each time having a different experience. Number 6, Final Fantasy Legend 1 and 2, released for the Game Boy. I know, I'm really going back in time here, but hey, I'm old, so sue me. These two gems aren't actually Final Fantasy games, they're the first entries into the illustrious Saga series. With the first game taking maybe 10 hours and the second one about 15, you should be able to complete them both easily and see what the series is all about. One nice thing to note here is that, while many games in this series can be unwieldy, these two are pretty linear. So don't worry about getting lost or not knowing what to do next, just enjoy the journey. Number 7, Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, released for the SNES. Titled Final Fantasy USA in Japan because, they think that we're all idiots, this was made as an introductory JRPG for the Western market, and the first Final Fantasy game to be released in Europe. The beauty of the game, though, is in its brevity. You can beat it in 15 hours pretty easily. The story just funnels you along from plot point to the next plot point, with a few deviations here and there. Do yourself a favor though and play this with the music on, it's fantastic. Number 8. Hexxus Force, released for the PSP. This one is a hidden gem and one of my favorites for the system. In fact, I included it in the top 10 best PSP RPGs list that I did a few years ago. Taking place on a tidally locked planet, you have a choice of 2 different heroes, each from a different side of the world, and then you can play through the story from their different viewpoints with entirely different party members. It will take you probably 20 hours to beat each story though, so you probably need to devote 2 weekends to see everything in this one. Number 9. Phantasy Star 4, released for the Sega Genesis. Much like the other long-running series that I included in this list, Phantasy Star 4 is not only the culmination of the franchise, but also the best, most polished one, and the one that you can beat in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of frustration. After playing through this gem, it may be hard to go back to the earlier titles because they each have their own problems, but if you want to relive Sega's glory days and the Algo Star system, check it out. It really is up there with Skies of Arcadia as one of the best RPGs that Sega's ever made. Number 10. Revelations: The Demon Slayer, released for the Game Boy Color. Oh, looky here! Another game in a long-running franchise that's short, accessible, and gives you a taste of what this series is all about. This is the first Shin Megami Tensei game released in America, and I remember being baffled by it as a kid, cause monster catching was still a new concept to me, but I was really hooked by the storyline and the exploration. This plays much more like a traditional Dragon Quest with towns, dungeons, and a world map. There's no first-person dungeon crawling here. So, if you've been wanting to see what SMT is all about, hunt down this underappreciated, mostly unknown gem. Number 11. Shadow Hearts, released for the PlayStation 2. This is the original horror RPG. Well, at least the first one that we got in America, since Sweet Home for the NES, another short RPG by the way, wasn't released here. The first game sets the stage for Yuri's journey, beginning in Asia and then ending off in Europe, and it will last you a good 20 hours for the main story. However, fair warning, there is a direct sequel which is one of the best games on the PS2 that's going to take you about 80 hours to complete. I love this historically based, wacky, gay-friendly series. Number 12. Suikoden 1 and 4, released for the PlayStation and PlayStation 2 respectively. Both of these games are on the short side, the first one taking you no longer than 10 hours, and the fourth one probably clocking in right around the 20-hour mark. I like to think of this series as the Trails series, well, before Trails even existed, just because of how much lore and world building is involved here. Focusing on a hero's quest to find the 108 Stars of Destiny, if you've ever wondered what these rich, interconnected games are like, these 2 short entries should satisfy your curiosity. Number 13. Super Mario RPG, released for the SNES. This is a fantastic game, right up there with Chrono Trigger as one of the best on the SNES, and, in my opinion, it's a much better game than anything in the Paper or Mario and Luigi series. This has still yet to be topped, so if you are a fan though of those portable iterations of the Mario RPGs, please, I implore you to see where it all began. And let me know if you too feel that this is the best of the bunch. I love the humor, snark, and inventiveness of the series. I just do wish that they would make a true sequel. Number 14. Sword of Hope 1 and 2, released for the Game Boy. These were childhood favorites of mine, and while they probably haven't aged well at all, I still love them, and I try to mention them whenever I get a chance. The first game will probably last you about 5 to 8 hours, and I really can't imagine the second one taking any more than 15. These are both unique in their controls. They work something akin to Shadowgate or Might and Magic, but they are definitely challenging JRPGs at their core. Keep in mind though, the first one is pretty archaic, but the sequel does hold its own. And finally, number 15, Wild Arms 4, released for the PlayStation 2. Here we have the last game on our list, and easily the shortest of the entire Wild Arms franchise. Nixing the world map as well as the beginning scenario system, the entire jaunt throughout Fulgaia is streamlined to only take you about 20 hours. Interestingly, the traditional battle system was scrapped and a hex system was introduced, which I adore. I really do think that it's one of the best battle systems I've ever had the pleasure of playing, even if Raquel just breaks it with her unbalanced and overpoweredness. Well, that's it for 15 short but enjoyable RPGs for working adults. I hope that you liked this video, and what are some other short games that you would recommend to everybody else? Also, be on the lookout for another part where I'm going to address some short action and strategy RPGs as well. If you like this video and what I do here on the channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. A link to it can be found in the video description. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.